Hello and welcome to Hysteria. I'm Erin Ryan.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco.
Alyssa, I'm finally caught up on Succession, and I have to say that I was shocked.
Okay.
That Shiv wore that aggressively all-black outfit to a wedding. Who dresses
On
like
a
that
boat.
for a wedding?
On a
boat. There's
know what
nothing
I'm
less
fascinated?
nautical. What?
I am fascinated. Do you ever notice she never has a bag?
What? Oh,
She
somebody's
never has a bag.
Whoa.
Almost never. But yes, that was an aggressive outfit for a wedding of a family member on a boat.
Yeah. Maybe that explains Tom's knee-jerk hatred of a large and prominent bag. Because of the capricious tote. Oh, man. Every time I see a big capricious tote, I just think about Tom. What a
Listen,
treasure
I
of a
hope he's
character.
I hope he's not dissing my LL Bean bags, which are so openly LL Bean.
He would feel like, oh, she got her little running shoes in there. She gonna go on the subway.
What, she
her
got
lunch-
cat litter in that bag?
and the answer is probably.
Probably, yes.
And if she does, it's none of your business, Tom.
Yeah, Tom.
Okay, a lot of news has been happening. We have an interview regarding the big story that has been vexing us. Worse than vexing. What's a word that means worse than vexing?
Making us very mad.
Yes. Well, that's several words, but
Deeply concerning.
Deeply concerning, indeed. And I'm not talking about. I think Susan
Or
Collins is
how
probably
about-
concerned.
Maybe we could go back to an episode of Succession and just say that what's happening is like the shit show at the Fuck Factory.
Oh, yes. It is a shit show at the Fuck Factory. Indeed. But there are good things coming out of the bad, I think. And a great example of how that all works and how the public anger at the status quo's fear of its growing irrelevance is paying off for the good guys. In Tennessee, there were 3 Democratic lawmakers who participated in a gun control protest after a shooting at a school in Nashville. 2 of those 3 Democratic state lawmakers were expelled. The third was almost expelled. She survived by 1 vote. The 2 that were expelled were 2 black men, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. And the representative who was not expelled is named Gloria Johnson. Gloria Johnson pointed out that it seemed that she couldn't quite put her finger on why she got to keep her job and the 2 others were expelled. So after they were expelled, a ton of attention came to Tennessee Republicans, nationwide attention. A ton of money came in for the 2 expelled lawmakers. Senator Chris Murphy alone raised $400,000. He's a prominent gun control advocate in the Senate, and so this kind of completely vibes with his whole thing. And so what has happened is one of those lawmakers, Representative Jones, has already been reinstated. So he was out of office for 3 days, 4 days. And the vote to reinstate Justin Pearson is on Wednesday today. So we don't know if Pearson will be readmitted. But so here's what happens at the end of the day. The same lawmakers are still members of the state legislature, but now they have a lot more money and a lot more attention.
Yeah. It seems like the Republicans had a real calculation error here.
I mean,
I'm just going to say, because Erin,
you
again,
cut budgets for schools for long enough, eventually all your reps are going to be bad at math.
I mean, truly bad at math. These guys, they're like, oh, you know what? And also, Erin, just to go back to the reason that the 3 lawmakers were expelled was because they were trying to advocate for the people in their communities who'd been murdered in a mass shooting, and the Republicans cut their microphones. And one of the things, and then they brought a bullhorn into the well of the legislature, and for that, they were voted to be expelled, 2 of the 3. And it is just a pretty incredible move on their part because they look like the pettiest bitches, but also they welcomed the speeches. Not they didn't welcome them, but they had to endure the speeches of Jones and Pearson, who called out the real fucking perps who are in the legislature. They're like, here's what this person's done. They're still here. Here's what this person was convicted of. They're still here. So, I mean, I feel like America really has a window into what's going on in Tennessee right now, and it's not gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say the Justins, the two Justins who were expelled from the Tennessee House are both incredibly compelling speakers. And with a national platform, I felt like I was watching two people with really big futures debut on the national stage. And I don't think that that's
audience.
An audience of millions.
Bigger than they ever could have imagined, or the Republicans could have imagined. And neither one of them, I think, is 30 yet.
No. God, that's crazy. That is, I mean, you're right, Alyssa. It was a real calculation error. I kind of want to, I want a post-game interview, like with that one lawmaker who kind of tried to berate one of the, like he tried to like shake his finger, like, hey, young man, this is, you got attention.
You sit down. Yeah. You pay respect.
I kind of want to sit down, be like, sir, how do you
think that went for you?
How did that go for you? How did you think it would go? And like, maybe it's time to kind of recalculate your worldview to include the fact that people like you are on their way out. I mean, they're fighting for their lives. They're acting like desperate cornered animals. But people like the Republicans in the Tennessee State House are like on their way out. They're like, anyway. And, again, I think the important thing to remember here, among many important things, is that these were representatives trying to advocate for sensible gun control. That's right. That's what the fight came from.
Prompted by a mass shooting in their own fucking state.
Yeah. At a school. Yeah.
In a school.
Where children died.
School.
All right. So let's transition to the next story. This is some culture war bullshit, but it's like very funny culture war bullshit. And so I'm going to talk about it. Because again,
it backfired.
Yeah, it's so stupid. So notable Republican figures are now saying they're boycotting all Anheuser-Busch products after the beer company partnered with a trans influencer named Dylan Mulvaney. Dylan is like a very recognizable face. You've definitely seen her. Like, she's around.
Kid Rock is taking a submachine gun and blowing up 12 packs of Bud Light. What is wrong with you people? It is bonkers. And they're all like, but the best is, they're like, you know what? Fuck you. First of all, they should Google what Anheuser-Busch produces, because they've started replacing things in their fridge with other Anheuser-Busch products.
I think like in order for them to truly boycott Anheuser-Busch, they will have to read more than they've ever read in their lives. Because there's so many things on the list.
And now they're like, you know what? Well, fuck that. We're just going to do Coors Light. And it's like, guys, Coors Light's pretty good on Pride Month too. So you might want to just pace yourself. You're going to end up machine gunning a lot of fucking beers by the end of June.
Oh my God. Well, I will say this, Bud Light is so watery and tasteless that I hope they were machine gunning those beers over some like grass or native plants that need watering, because I bet that would be nourishing to a plant. I don't know. It's so stupid. It is so stupid. It's like, what was the thing that people like lighting their Nikes on fire, or like throwing,
something like that,
or like there was this one
sneaker,
and it's like, you already bought it, dude. Like, what do you, if you stole them?
Who are you teaching a lesson to?
Yeah, take that beer. Now I'm not going to be drinking
fuck you, beer.
It's like, God, it's so stupid. Also, like, how fragile is your masculinity, ideology, and sense of self that you cannot handle? You absolutely lose your mind when a trans girl is in a marketing partnership with a brand that you sometimes use. Like, calm fuck down. Like, are all of your other needs being met? Are literally all of your other needs being met? Like, is there something else you can give your energy to? Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say, I think some of it among the sort of conservative gadfly space is just clout chasing. Like this is a popular thing to talk about or to take a stand on. And right now, posts about Dylan Mulvaney are going viral and Bud Light are going viral. And so people who are like, maybe some of these people just want more attention for themselves, which it feels like it's a central driver.
Yeah. It's embarrassing for them.
How embarrassing for them, indeed.
It's very embarrassing for them.
One more thing before we go. I gotta say, Dianne Feinstein, time to retire.
Not great.
Time to retire. The 89-year-old senator from California has missed 60 votes of 82 votes taken in 2023. This is at a very important time for Biden to get judges confirmed. And the judges cannot be confirmed if she is gone, if she's not there.
Nope.
She's holding up judicial confirmations because she's old and not showing up to votes.
And Erin, this isn't like, oh my God, she comes from a Republican state and it's better that she be home and be sick than resign from her seat. That is the opposite of the state of affairs in the state of California.
Literally, Governor Newsom
is stockpiling abortion drugs. We're good.
He's literally he's fine. He will appoint somebody that will do a vote exactly the way we want them to on Biden's judicial nominees. So please, she doesn't listen to podcasts, I don't think, Diane. But
and we appreciate her many years of service and being a pioneer for women. Mm-hmm. But
it's time to sail off into the
sunset.
We're
losing precious ground. We're losing precious time.
Exactly. And yes, it's time to step down. Everything is going to be fine. And the longer she holds on, the more she's tarnishing her legacy. So, get out while you're ahead. You're barely ahead, Diane. You're barely ahead.
Let it get out in time to be celebrated.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And we have a interview when we come back with a person who we always celebrate on this podcast, Senator Mazie Hirono. And welcome back, Alyssa. On a Friday before a holiday weekend, the time cowards drop news they don't want too many people to notice, a Trump-appointed Texas judge named Mazie Kacsmaryk handed down a ruling on a case brought by the Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine, a coalition of anti-abortion medical associations and doctors. Kacsmaryk, unsurprisingly, sided with the anti-abortion group and issued a preliminary and permanent injunction ordering the FDA to withdraw approval for mifepristone nationwide, abortion medications which were deemed safe by the FDA 20 years ago and have been safely used millions of times to terminate pregnancies. Here to talk about that ruling with us and what comes next is a familiar face to our listeners and an important voice for women in the Senate, where she represents the state of Hawaii. Senator Mazie Hirono, welcome to Hysteria.
Aloha.
We are so glad.
These are hysterical times, I'd say, with this decision and the obsession that the anti-abortion people have about trying to control and have power over our bodies.
Yeah, so Senator Hirono, I think I speak for many women and men when I say respectfully, what the fuck? How can one judge do this? And what does it mean? You also say what the fuck?
WTF a lot.
Yeah.
So, and I actually, of course, say the whole thing, and I know that I've said it on your podcast.
You can say it as much as you want.
What we do is these are times when we need to fight back. We are.
So how can one judge do this, though? I didn't realize that's how, any judge anywhere in the country can just be like, nope, nobody can use this medication anymore because I disagree with it.
Well, we have a federal judicial system where one judge can do that. And it so happens that this was a result of forum shopping. The plaintiffs organized themselves in Amarillo, and he's the only federal judge there. So it was all focused to have the results that they wanted. And I am figuring out how we can stop this kind of forum or judge shopping from happening. Because I don't know that any other federal judge would have so blithely imposed their own ideological perspective over an FDA approval process that they approved this drug over 20 years ago. I don't know that other federal judges would have been so eager to come up with that kind of decision, because it's indefensible and it's basically, in my view, nutty.
The same day Kacsmaryk made his decision, a judge in Washington state delivered a ruling ordering the FDA to preserve, quote, the status quo and keep mifepristone available in the 17 states along with DC that filed the lawsuits. How are these two separate and opposing judge rulings interacting with each other? Like, what are Americans supposed to do?
Hawaii was one of the 17 states and the District of Columbia that was a party to the Washington state decision. And as far as our states and the other states that were parties to that lawsuit, we are going with that judge's decision, which said FDA's approval stands. And so, yes, the Justice Department filed an immediate appeal to Judge Kacsmaryk's decision. It's in the Fifth Circuit, which is also peopled with a lot of conservative judges, so we shall see. But ultimately, this might go to the Supreme Court. In fact, it's highly likely that it will. And I'm saying that even this Supreme Court, which I call it it's the majority is very extremist. They may not be so eager to just toss out an FDA approval process of 20 plus years standing, because that will wreak havoc on the ability of the FDA to approve the safety and effectiveness of drugs. Can you imagine the chaos that would be created? And that is why Big Pharma has come out so strongly against Judge Kacsmaryk's decision.
Wow, it's rare that I'm on the side of Big Pharma, but it's okay.
I
know. Okay, go Big Pharma, I guess.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend in this case, I guess.
I guess, yeah. So, Senator, can we talk a little bit about the forum shopping that you mentioned? Just can you explain a little bit about how that took shape for our listeners who might not be familiar with how that all works?
Well, every time a lawsuit is filed, the plaintiffs who file the lawsuit, they have to figure out where they're going to file the lawsuit. It could be what state, whatever. But in this case, it was so clear that, what is it, the Physicians for Hippocratic, whatever. It's more like Physicians for Hypocrisy. And so they formed in this district court where Judge Kacsmaryk was. He is the only judge. So they filed this lawsuit, and he is the only judge that could have taken up the lawsuit because he's the only federal judge in that lawsuit. So we're looking for ways to prevent this kind of foreign shopping from happening. It's so clear that is what they did.
Mm-hmm. Well, like what could be done to prevent forum shopping like that?
We are thinking about what we can do. And frankly, I think the court systems there could also say you can't do that. You know, they have a circuit court, Fifth Circuit. So they possibly could have figured out, wait a minute, you can't just go to so clearly foreign shop. So there are probably different ways that we can contemplate how to prevent this kind of thing from happening.
Okay. So in response to this ruling, which we kind of agree is a travesty from soup to nuts, several lawmakers have come out and asked the FDA to ignore the ruling. Do you agree with that? Is that dangerous?
I can certainly understand the sentiment, which is this is a crazy decision. But the process is that we're going to file, and we have through the Justice Department, an appeal to the Fifth Circuit, and it'll probably go to the Supreme Court. But this all awakens so many people to the importance of our court system and why the judges that we are confirming now, the Biden judges are fair, and they're going to deal with cases based on precedent, fairness, and objectivity, which is not what we have basically with so many of the Trump judges, including Judge Kacsmaryk. They are there to impose their ideological perspective and not the rule of law.
Senator, you've advocated for women's health and the right to abortion throughout your political career.
Yes.
Can you tell our listeners a bit about the Women's Health Protect Act and the Equal Access to Abortion Coverage and Health Insurance Act so they know what you're working on?
Well, all of these, the Women's Health Protection Act basically is to, in shorthand, is to codify Roe and also to add some other protections so that the states are not doing things that create major barriers to a person's right to reproductive care, including abortion. So all of these bills that I've been pushing through with many of my colleagues is to continue to protect health information, for example. And I'm glad to say that a letter, or I should say a bill, that I introduced in the Senate, Sarah Jacobs introduced it in the House, is called the SAFER Act, and the administration just is proposing through the Health and Human Services a rule to prevent a person's reproductive medical information from disclosed to the likes of people from Texas, for example. They're trying to ferret out information, reproductive information. So that kind of information will be protected from disclosure without our consent. That's really important, and I'm glad that the administration is taking up this rule or proposing this rule.
Mm-hmm. And I think for people who think that it's maybe far-fetched that the government would like track periods, I mean, it was only a few years ago that there was an official in Missouri tracking the menstrual cycles of undocumented migrants. It's not uncommon. It's happening.
I have another bill called My Body, My Data, which is to protect that kind of information, because when we seek help from, say, the pregnancy crisis centers, they get a lot of information, and there's nothing that prevents them from disclosing information to the bounty hunters from Texas, for example. And so my body, my data will prevent that kind of information from just being disclosed. But our data is everywhere. Information is everywhere. We need to protect our right to keep that information private.
Mm-hmm. So the Justice Department, as you mentioned, has already appealed the Texas judge's decision from Friday. What do you see coming next in our nation's fight for abortion rights?
If the Republicans, so basically these are Republicans, really the extremist right-wing anti-abortion people, apparently they will stop at nothing. So maybe they'll come up with some other ways to basically effect a nationwide ban. And we have to fight them at every turn. And we are. In fact, states like Hawaii, we responded. The first bill that was introduced in the Hawaii legislature this session was a bill to prevent women's health information from just being disclosed, and to make very, very clear that in the state of Hawaii, which was the first state to decriminalize abortion even before Roe v. Wade, we're the first state, and we're at the forefront in protecting a person's privacy rights, and also to protect the providers of reproductive care, including abortion. So that was one of the first bills enacted by our Hawaii legislature.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad people at the state level are taking this on. And it does feel, Senator, like people have woken up across the country.
Yes.
There's like what just happened in Wisconsin was huge.
Yes.
And I think it seems to me, and maybe I'm optimistic here, but this almost feels like a case of like fuck around and find out by Republicans. This is something that's such a common procedure. It's been used millions of times. And the fact that an ideological judge can just revoke access to a medication that's been proven safe, that doesn't smell right, I don't think, to voters.
That's right. And, we over 50% of abortions in our country are through medication. So mifepristone has been used by over 5 million people. And in a state like Hawaii, where you can only get the abortion procedure in Honolulu or in Hilo, where it's on the Big Island. And so for the rest of the people who are pregnant and they need this, they use mifepristone unless they get on a plane and fly to Honolulu. Well, this is replicated many, many times over in states like Texas and every other state that is preventing abortion access. And so they're trying to get rid of the use of mifepristone. It's going to impact 60 million women if this goes through.
Mm-hmm. And I think you raise a really important point that for people in rural areas or people in places where clinics are not readily accessible to them, this is going to have a huge impact on them.
Yeah. Negative. Women are going to die.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Women are going to die. And it's just really horrendous to me that the anti-abortion people are so eager to control our bodies and have power over our bodies. As I said I was on the floor of the Senate a couple of weeks ago before I came back here, and I said, what's with this desire to have power and control over our reproductive freedom? What's up with that? Mm-hmm. Keep it to yourselves, I say.
I mean, honestly, I feel like if they don't want abortions, and then they shouldn't have them.
Exactly.
That seems like the simplest solution here. I do want to add before we wrap that there is still medication abortion available as of now. Yep. And even if mifepristone is pulled, there is another course of medication abortion that can be administered by providers. However, that's an off-label use of the medication, and there are kind of rumors that Republicans would target that use as well. So for now, it's still available, still safe, but like you said, Senator, it seems like they'll stop at nothing.
Yes, because they don't seem to learn their lesson, and they're going to keep going because this is in my view, out of control behavior on the part of the anti-abortion foes who they want to gain control over our bodies. Mm-hmm. And when I see Kacsmaryk's decision using words such as being pregnant is a normal state, I'm thinking, what? What? All of us during our childbearing years, we should just be pregnant? That's a normal state?
Yeah.
That's how nutty.
Pregnancy does not tickle, man. If childbirth is not like an easy thing, it is it is really hard, and it takes over your entire life for like a year plus.
It affects every part of our bodies. Mm-hmm. And women are going to die. And we already have one of the highest maternal mortality rates in this country compared to other developed nations. Mm-hmm. And so more women are going to die as a result of lack of access to reproductive health care.
Yeah. Well, that is a grim reality, but I'm glad that we have people like you, Senator, to speak up and to keep a fire lit under our butts and to keep the fight going, because we can't give up. This is literally a fight for our lives. Senator Hirono, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Aloha.
Yep.
Thank
aloha.
you guys.